My mom said, "This trip isn't about you," while swiping my card for every meal, every tour, every fake memory. So I smiled, packed quietly, and froze the account mid-lunch. By dinner, her card failed, the room key deactivated. Hey Reddit, before we dive in, I've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is the best way to support us. It's quick, free, and it truly helps grow this amazing community. Let's start the story. I didn't even want to go on this trip. When my mom pitched the idea, some grand European tour to bond as a family, I already had my doubts. We hadn't really functioned as a family since I was 16, when she divorced my dad, and pretty much turned into a different person. Gone were the days of movie nights and pancake Sundays. She started chasing status, men, and Instagram aesthetics, and somewhere along the way, she began treating me like a wallet that occasionally called her daughter. Still, guilt can be a persuasive liar. So when she called me last spring, chirping about a 2-week vacation to France and Italy, I sighed and said yes. She promised we'd split the costs. I booked the flights, secured the hotel reservations, and linked my travel card so things would go smoothly. I should have known better. By day 2, I realized what was happening. Every restaurant we ate at, my card. Every guided tour, my card. Even her new suitcase from that overpriced boutique in Nice, charged to my card, and every time I asked about it, she'd brush me off. Don't be so uptight. She'd say while sipping wine she had no intention of paying for. This trip isn't about you, not about me. I was the one who spent hours planning the itinerary, making sure we had decent accommodations. I was the one who took time off work and rearranged deadlines to make this trip even possible. She didn't even bring her own credit card, just carried my travel wallet like it belonged to her. By day 4, I was seething, but I held it in. I didn't want to cause a scene in the middle of Florence. I told myself I'd confront her back at the hotel, but when I tried, she laughed. God, you're so dramatic. Why can't you just be grateful? Most girls would love to have this time with their mom. Most girls' moms don't treat them like an open bar. I wanted to snap, but I didn't. I bit my tongue, and I watched her parade around in her new silk dress, smug and carefree. It all came to a boiling point at lunch in Rome. We were sitting in this beautiful cafe in Trastevere. I barely touched my food. She, meanwhile, ordered a bottle of wine and 2 appetizers like it was her birthday. Midway through her second glass, she looked at me and said it again, like she was quoting a mantra. This trip isn't about you. Something in me snapped. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I smiled, excused myself to the restroom, and sat down on the closed toilet lid with my phone in hand. I opened my banking app, tapped into the account connected to the travel card, and froze it. Just like that. Account access disabled. I walked back to the table calm and collected. She didn't notice anything was off. She was too busy flirting with a waiter and posting her seafood risotto to Instagram. We finished lunch, and I even offered to split dessert just to keep her unsuspecting. Then I returned to the hotel, packed my bags, and checked into a small Airbnb 2 blocks away under my name. By dinner, the fireworks began. Her frantic calls started at 7 p.m. Missed call. Missed call. Voicemail. Where are you? The hotel says you checked out. My card isn't working. What did you do? I didn't answer. At 8:12 p.m., she texted. Did you freeze the account? My key card won't open the room. What is going on? I waited another hour before replying. You said this trip wasn't about me, so I made sure it really isn't. No response. At 10:37 p.m., she called again. I let it ring. I went to bed that night with a sense of peace I hadn't felt in years. The next morning, I took a walk to a quiet cafe near Piazza Navona. As I sipped my espresso, my phone buzzed again. She was trying to reach me through WhatsApp now. I'm locked out. I had to sleep in the hotel lobby. My things are still in the room. This isn't funny. I didn't think it was funny either. I thought it was a long time coming. Eventually, I replied with a short message. You can contact the hotel manager and have them charge your incidentals to a new card. Liked an adult. She left me on read. That afternoon, I visited the Vatican Museum solo. No interruptions. No fake laughter. Just me, my headphones, and the art. I felt like I had peeled off a heavy, invisible coat. Later that evening, I returned to the Airbnb and opened my inbox. She'd sent a string of emails now. Some apologetic. Others laced with guilt. I didn't mean it like that. You embarrassed me. You always do this. Please unblock the card. At least so I can get my luggage. I replied simply. The hotel will release your bags when the balance is paid. I suggest calling Dad. Or maybe one of the guys you post cryptic quotes about. Was it petty? Maybe. But it was also the first time I felt like I had a sliver of control in a dynamic that had been one-sided for far too long. She always had this way of turning every situation into an emotional trap. If I called her out, I was ungrateful. If I distanced myself, I was cold. If I gave in, she took more. There was no winning. Until now. The funny thing is, I didn't even enjoy cutting her off. It wasn't satisfying in the way revenge usually is. It was quiet. Sad even. Like finally giving up on a book you've been trying to finish for years. But it was necessary. I spent the next few days exploring on my own. I took a cooking class in Tuscany. I rented a bike in Lucca. I even went wine tasting with strangers I met through a local tour group. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of her entitlement. And yet, a part of me wondered what she was doing. If she had figured something out. If she'd gone home early. Or if she was still wandering around Rome looking for someone else to pay for dinner. I didn't plan on talking to her again, at least not until I got back home. But then came the message that changed everything. The message came 3 days later, just as I was packing for my train ride to Venice. Subject: I'm in the hospital. Text: I fainted outside the train station. Mild dehydration and stress. Don't worry, I'm okay. But I could use someone here. Please. I stared at the screen, heart caught between disbelief and that old, familiar tug of obligation. Was it a guilt play? A manipulation tactic? Or worse, was it real? Despite everything, a part of me still cared. That was the sickening part. No matter how many times she used me, dismissed me, or twisted the truth to suit her version of reality, I couldn't just erase 30 years of instinct in 1 week. I called the hospital. She was, in fact, admitted. They told me she'd been brought in after collapsing near Termini Station and treated for exhaustion and dehydration. She'd refused to give them any emergency contact except me. So, I went. When I walked into the hospital room, I expected to feel anger or superiority. But what hit me first was how small she looked. My mother, so often loud, immovable, always in control, was lying in a paper-thin gown under fluorescent lights, no makeup, no bravado. Just tired. She looked up at me like a child who'd lost her way. I didn't know who else to call, she said. Her voice was brittle, like she hadn't spoken in hours. I didn't answer right away. I sat down beside her bed, watching the floor drip into her arm. You didn't have to call anyone, I finally said. You could have just brought your own card. Her face twisted into a half smile. That's fair. I wasn't trying to punish you, I added. I hit a wall. You treat me like a bank. You say things like, this trip isn't about you, while literally living off me. I needed to take my power back, or I was going to lose it. She nodded, eyes filling. I know. I do that. I take and pretend it's normal. I don't even know when I started being like this. I do, I said blunt. It was after the divorce. You didn't want to be a mom anymore, you wanted to be adored. And I became the audience. Or the sponsor. She didn't argue. After your father left, she said quietly. I felt invisible. Not just romantically, but as a person. Like if I wasn't seen, I wasn't worth anything. You were growing up so fast, so independent. Everyone was. And I felt behind. Unglamorous. Broke. So I leaned into whatever made me feel powerful again. Pretty things. Expensive trips. Validation. You leaned on me, I said. Until I collapsed under it. She let out a broken breath. I'm sorry. It didn't fix everything. I wasn't even sure if I fully believed her. But it was the first time in over a decade she'd said those words to me without twisting them into blame. I stayed for an hour. I brought her water and helped her log into the hospital Wi-Fi so she could call her insurance. I even gave her enough cash to take a cab when she was discharged. But I didn't unlock the card. She didn't ask me to. That night, I boarded the train to Venice. Alone. And it felt right. Like finally closing a chapter that had dragged on far too long. The last 2 days of my trip were the best. I wandered the canals. Took photos I didn't post. Bought myself a small watercolor painting from a street artist. It was peaceful in a way I hadn't expected. Quiet. Nourishing. When I flew back home, I half expected a dramatic ambush at the airport. But there was none. Just a text, hours later, "Thanks for coming to the hospital. I know I've done a lot of damage. I'll pay back everything you spent. It might take a while, but I will. I promise. I know this doesn't mean we're fixed. But I hope it's not too late to change." I didn't respond right away. A few days passed. Then a week. Eventually, I replied. "You can start by paying for your portion of the trip. I'll send the breakdown. The rest we'll see." Change takes more than words. And that was it. She did pay me back in slow increments over the next 4 months. Never missing a payment. I didn't ask where she got the money. I didn't want to know. We talk now, but less. Boundaries have replaced guilt. I don't answer every call. I don't say yes to every invitation. And if she ever mentions a girl's trip again, I'll smile and say, "You're welcome to go, just not on my dime." Because here's the thing no one tells you about toxic parents. Sometimes they don't change. Sometimes they evolve just enough to trick you into letting your guard down again. But if you're lucky, if you're really lucky, they get the message before it's too late. And if they don't, then freezing the card is just the beginning. And this time, I won't be the one left paying for her lesson.